Hi, Toby. Thank you for joining us on the Black Ink podcast.
Hello, Rachel.
So I caught you on one of my favourite shows right now, I May Destroy You.
Yes.
And before that, you were in a Sky series with Mark Strong, Temple.
Yep.
For those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and your career.
So my name's Toby, as Rachel just said. I'm a young actor. I started acting when I was about 16, and my journey's been different. I was on the route to drama school, but fortunately I landed Temple. So I didn't end up going to drama school, and then literally it just kicked off from there. And before then I was, doing like much as I could, like presenting and everything else. But yeah, that's sort of been the journey so far. But it's still it's growing.
That's amazing. I mean, you just skipped the drama school and just went straight in and got a job, like, with a ledge like Mark Strong. So that's pretty awesome. How was it working?
It was awesome. And literally, I see it as my training. Like the days I was working on Temple it was 6 months filming. So literally day in, like I felt like I was learning loads. And I think I did. Like Mark he's a really great guy. Like honestly a great guy. So he literally used to, when I asked questions, he used to tell me like, a lot of advice, acting tips, and how to really get a hold of things in the industry. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. See, that's really nice to hear. And what about with Michaela Cole, who's my shiro?
Yes.
How was it working with her?
Oh, I love Michaela. Michaela is like, it's really weird. I was speaking to one of the other cast members literally yesterday about Michaela, and working, especially on that scene, the family scene.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know that she'd worked so hard on the past episodes and just in general on the whole show. As her, being a writer, producer, director as well. It's so mad. Like she literally just just took it on and did it amazingly, and it's come out to be so magnificent. Like honestly, I'm really inspired. I'm really inspired by her, and on that show as well, I got into writing as well because she sort of helped me. So literally working alongside her has been a blessing.
Yeah, it's honestly, every episode, I'm just like, my mouth is on the floor. It's just so groundbreaking. I'm a huge fan of hers and anything that she touches. So yeah, I'm here for it. What else are you working on currently or yet to come out?
So yet to come out, we have a show called Cursed, which is a Netflix series. And that was really fun filming because it was like, medieval, and I was playing a warrior. So
nice.
That was, yeah. So it was really fun. That was like a tribute to my old fantasy sort of obsessed childhood.
Yeah.
But yeah. And also we have season 2 of Temple, which is still in discussion because we're not really sure since lockdown, but should be coming back, hopefully.
COVID is just messing up everyone's lives right now, seriously.
A little bit, yeah.
So for those people who want to follow you and catch up with you, do you want to share your social media handles? Where are you on Instagram, Twitter?
Yeah, so I'm mainly on Instagram, which is Tobi King-Bakare, just my full name as it is. So yeah.
Ah, original. No one, no two.
No underscores.
No underscores.
As it goes.
Awesome. So as you know, this is a Black Ink podcast, and we asked you to pick a Black film that you wanted to discuss, and you picked Beast of No Nation with very lush Idris Elba.
Yes.
Tell us why.
Oh, there's a lot of reasons. It's actually, aside from it being a magnificent film and having Idris, this amazing actor, just taking them through that journey, it's also really close to me because I would like to say I went through a similar. Actually, I was gonna say I went through a similar experience, but it's not really as similar as that, as you can imagine. You know what I'm saying? But I will explain how it was similar. Basically, when I was younger, I went through some family sort of things and ended up in Nigeria with my brothers. And I remember when I was in Nigeria, I grew up in Ireland. I grew up in the UK. And when I went to, that's another topic. I grew up in the UK.
We'll get to that. Let's just,
We'll get to that, yeah. And then in the UK, in Nigeria, when we were about to leave, I remember something happened with like my passport and some issues. And when my family left, I couldn't go along with them. So I had to stay in Nigeria for another year by myself.
How old were you?
I was about 7 or 6, yeah, quite young. So I remember like there's a scene in Beast of the Nation where the main Agu is leaving his mum in the car. And when I watched that originally, I remember just feeling like, oh, like literally it hit me so hard in ways I didn't remember, but it came back to me. So that's one of the reasons why I just love that.
God, I'm tearing up right now just thinking about it, because that scene is so horrible to watch, and you just like, I felt the pain and the tears in his eyes. So it's like
literally,
yeah.
And he's such an amazing actor as well. He's like, let's not get started on him, but yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I can. So then you came a year later. And
so then eventually when my mum went and got things sorted out, she came back to get me and then came to London for the first time.
That must have been so difficult for her. Are you the youngest?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Can imagine.
Okay. I'm not going to start crying right now. Let me just do this and then get there. So I was going to ask, can you relate to the characters and the location? Will you answer that question? Whether you can
please.
Yeah.
I mean, a little bit, I guess so.
Yeah. Apart from the young boys, is there anyone else in there that you kind of felt, for example, like Idris's personality kind of reminds you of that typical young uncle that everyone has that tries to be a bit cool and is really not. And so I just wondered if you had anyone like that in the film that kind of reminded you of anyone that you knew.
I would say, for sure, Idris's character is like, I feel like his character for me, it took me a few watches to really understand him, because it's like he's this anti-hero and this anti sort of, and it's like he's doing a good thing because he's building a good thing, as in the rebels fighting for what they believe in, and they're trying to make a difference, they're trying to live happily, and he's building these families, but then he's like raping the boys, and it's like, it's just these so I like to say, I do, I don't think I answered the question. Like, I
know what you're saying. He's a very layered character, though. I do like the fact that in one scene he may be perceived as a hero, and then in the next it's an absolute villain, which is one thing I found difficult watching it as I love Idris. It's like, Idris, what are you doing, babe? Like, don't do that. I found myself pleading with this character. And I guess that's why, for me, it's one of his best performances, because he executed it so well. Like, you really did believe it.
And like, when you isolate his journey as well, aside from all the other characters, you really see where it happens and where the change happens from him wanting to make a difference, and then him going into like, vigilante, like, screw the movement, let's start our own thing, and that going horribly wrong, and then him. So I feel like he smashes that completely.
It's such a heartbreaking film, because not often we get these kind of like civil war films about Africa that's kind of really told through a child, and in such a horrific, honest way. It just really feels like everything that's happening is so real and it's based on a reality. And so that's one of the reasons why I liked the film. I mean, I've only watched it a few times because my heart can only take so much of that. But yeah, how did you feel watching that depiction of like civil war in Africa?
I feel like it's really powerful, because as you said, we don't see it often, so it's something that needs to be told, and it's something that needs to be like, that needs to be broadcasted out there. I feel like how I felt, it's like, honestly, because of the way the film is, and like, this is just good filmmaking, but then they have like these light bits where it's really, really African. I remember, and I could relate to these light bits, like when they're in school and they're clapping, and he says, "You got it right," and he goes, "And another one," and it's really, really Nigerian, like African, because it was like that as well. And it's those bits of real honesty that really, really made me as a person like, wow, this shit actually goes on. As in, like, this is real. These kids go through things like this. So I feel like it was heartbreaking, and also like, I don't know, it just like opened my eyes in many different ways.
There was a bit when he's towards the beginning when Idris is like knocking the kids on the head, is like, I say, and I say, like, a bit of banter away, and it just reminded me so much of like, that's exactly what one of my annoying uncles would do. And it's like, it's not funny, it's a very serious situation they're in. They're like bantering me off in the situation. There's so many bits like that in the school. Just the relationship with the brothers. That was just like, it's quite hard. So I was going to say, what other scenes that kind of stood out to you, if you had any favourite scenes?
So my favourite scene would be the scene where he's leaving his mum in the car and he's fighting to try and get on the car. That's one of my favourite scenes, and definitely. But it's hard because there's so many.
They are.
But I'll say a memorable scene, and a scene that really sticks with me, is when he's waiting to see the big commander. When Idris and his battalion are waiting to see the big commander, and there's like there's an Asian guy sitting there, and then a white guy sitting there, and they get like, you know, they get VIP treatment. They get straight in to see the commander, and then they even get after. I think they even get like a token of appreciation for coming all this way and all that. And it's interesting because obviously that was put in on purpose because, you know, they wanted to make a point.
Of course. Yeah.
And I feel like that's really interesting. I feel like that was like an eye-opener, like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a little reminder of socially what happens as well, and how, I guess, certain African leaders love to just...
exactly.
I think that's another day. That will be a conversation. But, it was really important to kind of show that. I think for me, it felt like at times, like it was so graphical, like when he had to chop the guy's head. I was just like, this is horrible, but well executed. It felt like a Quentin Tarantino scene at one point, because just like the blood and gore was proper real, like the sounds of the bullets. You just felt like they were coming over your shoulder. Is this your favourite Idris performance, or do you have?
It's definitely one of my favourites. I feel like for what it is, for like filmmaking and, you know, the things I like to see in film and the way I like film to make me feel, I feel like it is one of my favourite Idris performances. But in terms of like the coolest, I think, is Luther. You know, I just love Luther.
Oh, of course, exactly.
But like, I wouldn't, you know, but I couldn't say it is one of his best performances. But it wouldn't be my sort of top, because it's not. You know, Luther is just like entertainment, in my opinion. This is,
and also Luther's so like familiar. He's like the proper geezer, like, from, you know, East End and that, and he just feels so like, you know him. I do not know Idris or Luther, but I think one that people forget about is Rock and Roller, which is one of my favourite early doors. It's got Jared Butler. The cast is wicked. But I love him in that as well.
Yeah, you got like all of them, even Tom Hardy, even Mark as well. Mark's in it.
Yeah, Mark's in it. Yeah, exactly. So it's a brilliant cast. Yeah, I love that.
Great film.
And I love his character in Thor. I just love the idea of him in Thor being that all senile kind of thing. And Mandela, obviously. So how did you feel about like a non-African director, Curry, can never say his surname, don't judge me, Fugananga, directing? Because for me, I think he did a pretty good job in terms of like directing and getting the essence of just harrowing feeling across.
Honestly, I didn't know, and I always assumed that it wasn't a white director, you know, until I researched it, and I was like, wow, he done a really good job. I'm impressed. Because like I said, all them little small things, them little details that felt so honest. I felt like that's often the difference that you see with like a black director or filmmaker. So then they can, you know what I'm saying? So then when he nailed it, you know, he nailed that aspect of it. So, you know, hats off to him.
I think maybe also because he had the foundation there of the book to kind of work from. And I definitely think he must have had some sort of like, I don't know, some uncles and African leaders 100%. Because like you said, it was executed really well. And another scene that I was discussing with Adam earlier is the sexual assault and how you don't really see it, but it's implied, and how much that stuck in my head, and how important that was to show what happens to these children in these situations and these circumstances. Because it's a bit of it's such a dark topic. Would you ever consider playing a dark character like that kind of depicts different sides of life?
With me, definitely. Like, I'm open to like a lot of like different types of characters, because equally sometimes you're saying it can be quite dark and negative, and but I feel like these are real people. This is real things, and especially when we're dealing with real topics, you have to be honest to it. So I feel like the way they did that with all the negative themes, like the drugs, there's a lot of like the theme of drugs in it, and even the theme of JuJu, black magic in it.
Oh yeah. That might have gone through people's heads if they did a
it really could have. I feel like if you're not from that sort of background, then it might just look like these rituals, but this is like the thing that they would do, and they would believe that they're doing with this black magic, even when they said the bullets won't touch you. And
that was just and it's like these poor children, like you're proper brainwashing, and I love the process of showing how to brainwash a child. You've killed them, taken them away from their family, and there's kind of no option, which is just so sad.
Definitely. I feel like go on.
No, go on.
I was gonna say, with the topic of what I would play, it has to really relate to the topic though, because sometimes that I see a lot of productions that just show things because they feel like it'll be cool. Like, it's cool to show a murderer or a rapist because it's just like interesting, but it's not really for a purpose. It's just for entertainment in that sense. And I feel like when dealing with them sort of themes, you have to,
exactly. If it's necessary for the development of a character, then yes,
exactly.
Not just to kind of glorify or for shock you. It's like so unnecessary. So for this, Idris kind of put on weight, let himself go a little bit, messed up his hairline. Your Henry's are looking very, very sharp at the moment.
Thank you.
Is that something that you would be up for, like body transformation? How easy or hard would that be for you?
I mean, putting on weight for me is very easy. Super easy. So that wouldn't be a problem. But I mean, it definitely, like, again, if it's for the character, if it's for the role, then sometimes I have to I feel like there's levels, I wouldn't make myself really unhealthy to the point where I've damaged my organs and that just so I could play a role.
It can be damaging.
It can be damaging, right? Yeah. So I feel like, you have to know what you're doing. Like, you have to do it the right way. Like, I see all these like celebrities playing superheroes, and they go on this dirty bulk, and it's like eating junk food just to burn. And nah, you could do it without doing that. So I feel like it depends on how you do it. That's the main thing.
I think one person that kind of is very good at that, which is probably bad, but is Christian Bale. He's forever on and off in some sort of diet for whatever character. I mean, he's excellent, but so if you could direct someone to YouTube, watch a particular scene from Beast of the Nation, what would it be? Which one would you pick to entice them?
A particular scene, I would say, I feel like that's really hard, because a lot of the film work. It's difficult. It is, because especially this film, it works because of the adventure value as you see the journey. That's why it's so shocking when Agu's saying fuck, because he's not like that.
Yeah.
So I would say, if I had to pick two scenes,
no, you can pick it. Yeah, do it.
I would pick the Imagination TV scene. When they're like trying to pitch this Imagination TV. And then I would pitch like the scene where Agu and Striker are chopping the head.
Yeah, that was
like even like it showed like the brotherhood of the whole like battalion in a sense as well. Like I like the fact that obviously it was bad that Agu was chopping his head, but that Striker came and helped him, and then since then that was like the start of their brotherhood. And then in the end, obviously, gets really sad.
It gets really sad. I mean, the journey of the whole film is just so difficult. And like you said, it's about brotherhood, and also kind of like it depicts losing your child innocence. And the different stages as well that it happens in one film. Like usually just one of those things are enough for you to lose your child innocence, but there's quite a few different scenes in that that happen. Is there anything else that drew you to this movie apart from obviously where it was set, the subject, the phenomenal acting from the young boy and Idris and the cast?
It was mainly just that, to be fair. I feel like it was because I felt like it was going to be a film that felt familiar, and it was. And Idris, of course. And yeah, I feel like it was a film that when I watched it the first time, I watched it again and then again, because the more I watched it, the more I started to see these themes and the more I started to really love it. I think I was quite disappointed in the lack of awards it had. That was something that, and I watched it again just to clarify, like, what? Am I going mad? Like, this film was phenomenal. So, yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I feel like it's mainly the things you said.
I agree with you, and I think because this was one of Netflix's early films of like, guys, take us serious. We're going to be putting out really good content. And I think just having kind of one superstar, Idris, and then everyone else kind of being like unknown actors and, or, you know, kind of building up to that. I was really proud of Netflix. I think this was a brilliant content for them to put out, and really surprised me. And so I think from that point on, I took them a little bit more serious in terms of like what they're producing and stuff. But yeah, it's definitely a difficult watch, but a necessity one for sure. Exactly.
I felt like watching it, I really was intrigued by the JuJu sort of side to it. I remember like really like, well, I'm thinking about it now, and I just remember I reminded myself earlier, but that was really scary at a point.
Yeah, and I think it's important to have that in there, especially when you're like an African story, because it is such a big part of like the culture and stuff like that. Kind of ignore that wouldn't do it any service. Yeah, maybe building up on that storyline somewhere along the way, somewhere in another movie that's not on Vox or one of those channels, but more mainstream might be an idea.
And I think it's interesting that you have to really focus to catch it. And I think that's a good thing. I feel like that's actually a good thing when I think about it, because it's easy to see the stereotypes of black magic and JuJu, especially with African culture. Yeah. And this is obviously an ongoing debate still that, you know, a lot of my friends and me get into a lot. And it's like, is JuJu evil, or is it just westernized that are scared of our true like cultural? And honestly, I'm religious, so I'm just like, no, I don't business.
I'm going to get involved. I'm just going to get myself out of it.
You know what I mean? But I still feel like it's good that, you know, like we could, you know, see that and realize that. And then some people will be like, oh, they're just, you know, doing rituals. So yeah. The film's great.
No, I get that. I think that's such a conversation that happens amongst us all the time, constantly. Yeah. All the time. Even when you bring into religion and stuff like that, you know, it's an old religion, some may argue. So I'm not involved. Each their own. But yeah, no, and like you, I do think it should have got a few more awards, but I think because of the subject, and I think because they were so raw, it was not really an entertaining film. It doesn't leave you feeling warm and fuzzy inside. So I think because there's no like clear hero, which usually is the case in these kind of like blockbuster winning movies, I think that's probably why it didn't. Right. But definitely, I think it deserved it for sure.
It was definitely, in a way, almost before its time. As if it came out now and while about this time, I feel like it would skyrocket.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah. It's so annoying that happens though with some movies. Yeah. To be fair, but yeah, definitely if it was released now, I think it would have probably swept up.
Yeah, literally.
Sure. I hope when we're up and running again that you'd be able to come down and join us for one of our screenings.
Oh yeah, of course, definitely. Yay. So what are these screenings like as well? So you watch the films?
Yeah, so we put on old and new films. So we've had Poetic Justice and Inside Man, And obviously these are films that you've either watched in the cinema or by yourself, but watching it in a setting is, and some people didn't even, like, I've never heard of Poetic Justice, which is crazy in my eyes. And just kind of seeing their reaction and, you know, the conversations it prompts afterwards as well. So we have like a little like interaction and stuff like that. So it's quite cool. Yeah. So obviously the pandemic kicked in and put everything on hold. So once we're allowed to get back in the cinemas properly, we'll be back up and running. The next film is Set It Off.
Ah, amazing.
Thank you, Tobi King-Bakare, for joining Black Ink Cinema podcast.